I'm going to be whistling that all night. I can't remember who that is. Diana Ross or something. We're live. It is 6:52 in the PM. Today's a good day, so that you guys know, and I'll mention this again later. For the guys that have been here a while, you know that I had a long ago when we were at the other house, I had a tree fort. So I used to do a lot of videos from the tree fort, at least the intros and stuff. And so that was fun. And then we had to tear it down because we moved and, you know, the boys got older and stuff and they're not using tree forts. But I'm building another one. So we have lots of relatives and stuff that have little ones. So I want to build something so that the little ones can come over and play. So I started doing that today. And it's, as I remember, it's a lot of work. But it'll be awesome. So I want to do all kinds of cool stuff, like a slide and maybe a rope ladder and, you know, walkway and all that stuff. Maybe a cargo net. But the highlight will be I'm putting an electric elevator on it, so we can ride up to the thing. It's pretty cool though. I even, as we do, just like, but this is a project, just like anything else. So midway through the project, I'd already decided what I was doing, already started hacking and slashing and stuff. And I got to thinking, you know what? I shouldn't do it like that. There's going to be really no tree left. I don't want to do that. So I changed midstream, changed the design in my head, and then thought, oh, okay, yeah, I can make that work. Let's redo that. So it'll be, you know, new. It'll be a version 2 before it was even version 1. So okay. That seems like a lot. The depth of the concrete post hole should be 1/3 to half the height of the thing. So they want me to put, I was just looking up how deep the post hole should be. So I have a 12-foot post. And so they want me to bury it 6 feet in the ground. I don't think that that's going to happen. We're gonna cement it in, and I'm not going that deep. Probably 2 feet is going to be more like it, but that'll be good. With the old tree house, I didn't even. I may have dug holes and put it in, but we just put it in. I compacted the dirt around it. We didn't even put cement or anything in, and I may not have even done that. I think that we just attached it to. It was not really a tree house; it was tree adjacent house. So it was sitting next to a tree, and then I somehow attached it, I don't know, with a bungee cord or something. So it was attached to the tree. So it could technically be called a tree house, but that's what it had for stability. I mean, it was stable because of the weight of the tree fort was on the 4 legs, and the 4 legs were pretty even though the ground was not terribly even. So it wasn't like it moved around, and it had a wide enough base that it was, you know, it was all about that base. So it was working good. The thumbnail I put up today is, I was marveling again, thinking back to yesteryear when we were running 5-liter Fords and looking at that throttle body. I couldn't believe, because we had run the test recently where I'd run a bunch of different size, not throttle bodies, but a bunch of different intake manifolds for the GT40 stuff. So we had the GT40 and a Cobra and a later Cobra and a Ford Explorer and all that stuff. And we ran those, and I was looking at the stock 5-liter throttle body. I'm like, that's really, really small. I mean, not that it was probably terribly restrictive on given that the rest of everything was also restrictive. The upper and lower intake manifold didn't flow a ton. The heads didn't flow a ton. The camshaft was pretty good. It was a 302, you know, was a big bore short stroke, high revving motor that they made into essentially Ford's version of a tune port. So it was low revving. They peak power at, I don't know, 4,800 or something. It was not very high. So the stock throttle body was probably not terribly restrictive, but it's just funny that way back then, the 60 millimeter or whatever it was, that was a stock one. And now we have stock things that have, you know, 90 millimeter throttle bodies on them. So just like having cylinder heads that back then flowed 150 or 160, now they flow twice that, like on an LS and on other vehicles as well, that they got twice the head flow. And the thing is, that doesn't come with like, oh, but they lost a bunch of low speed power. They didn't, because that's not really what happens. But it got me thinking, and I haven't done this test yet, and I want to. I'm curious to see how well, for two reasons. One, this throttle body thing that we're talking about. I'm curious to see how well a high ram does on a 302. I think I might have one. I think I have one for a 351. I'll have to check. But I want to run that. I want to compare it, and we want to see how it does. And we know that, like all of these, like running any of the thing, if you look at the Chevy side of it, you look at the tune port manifolds that we ran, and then you compare that to like the Stealth Ram, which would be kind of like the high ram. But if you look at that comparison, you'll go, oh yeah, that's lots more power on the top, less power down low, typical of a long runner, kind of shorter runner thing. The Stealth Ram in that case on the Chevy side was not ultra short runner like some of the other stuff, like a LT1 manifold or like the mini ram, the TPIS deal. And the same thing on the Ford side. The high ram is, I don't know, let's throw out medium length for that. It's not long runner like the factory one. It definitely flows a lot more because not only is the runner length changed, but the port size is a lot bigger. And then you could argue that without having to make the turns, the guys that want direct line of sight kind of thing, that it's a better deal. So you could argue that, and then the plenum volume guys could jump in and go, yeah, plenum volume, wah, 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 does all that fancy stuff. But also then the throttle body guys, then the flow guys can jump in, because these are all different camps. So then the throttle body guys can go, yeah, it has you can put a lid on it. There's a 90 millimeter throttle body or 92, one that has a 105 millimeter throttle body on it. You could go crazy and put on one that has two, 1,000 plus cc or CFM throttle bodies on it. You could even you could do a blank one and put 3 of those on there, put 4500s on there, put whatever you want. So you could have an unlimited amount of airflow going into it. And ultimately the manifold itself is still going to be the thing that's doing it, because quite honestly, even a 90 millimeter throttle body, which we've seen in lots of past testing, even a 90 millimeter throttle body on most 5-liter Fords is not going to be restrictive at all. But the 102 or the 105, you definitely got to have that. And then if you have one of those, what's even better than that is obviously 2 of those. But the high ram would be interesting for the second reason that I mentioned. The high ram would be interesting because long ago I did a test and we ran a bunch of different manifolds. And in fact, I don't even think I did this test. I think that, I don't know, maybe Chris Kaufman may have done this. So shout out to Chris from way back when I try to say hi and shout outs to the guys that helped me do stuff way back when I was just a nothing kid going around begging people for, hey, can you give me a coil pack or something, whatever, so that I can get my car done. And lots of guys helped out. So and Kaufman was one of those, and that's why I'm still friends to this day. For Chris too, but definitely Mark Sanchez. But they did a test with what they call the Flowmaster intake manifold. It's not the Flowmaster like exhaust company, not exhaust thing. What it was a Wyand tunnel ram with a fabricated lid on top of it with a side mount throttle body, because it's a Ford. So they wanted to make the side mount throttle body so that you could use your Pro M 77 millimeter mass air meter and all the stuff that would have been kind of like turbo kits or blower kits or whatever that would have been done for Ford stuff. So they wanted to put the throttle body. I don't know if it was exactly in the factory location, but it was factory adjacent. And then also it was bigger. I don't remember offhand. I'd have to go back and search and find out when that was even done. It was long ago. And I haven't seen it for a really long time, but I don't remember what size the throttle body is. I'm hoping that it was bigger than 75. Like I'm hoping that was a 90, that was when AccuFab had 90s available, 90s for the Ford stuff, that they had it. This was long before any of the LS stuff or any of those were out. But that manifold did very, very well. In fact, it made the most power of all the manifolds that they tested. But if I remember, I think that they were testing it against, maybe GT40s and Cobras and maybe extrude hone ones or something like that. So it was not, it was a much different kind of manifold and more set up for, let's say, higher RPM stuff. But because it was a tunnel ram, it was not like it was a single plane manifold. So a single plane, if you do it was common for guys to do these reconfigured Victor Juniors with EFI and then run a throttle body on those. I remember back in the day testing one of those, and it did like what you'd expect. I mean, I've run lots of carbureted manifold tests, and it does that basically. It makes power up top, especially compared to the long runner stuff. It does make power up top, but it loses a lot of power down low. And the Flowmaster, I think, was a really, really good. I remember it as being a really, really good trade-off. Like, yeah, it like way down low, it's definitely going to lose power because these short or these long runner manifolds, GT40s and extrude honed factory HO upper and lowers and all the trick flows and all these things are all really good, and they make good low speed power. And even into the mid range. And for us, it was if it was revving to 6,000, that was good. That's good for 5-liter stuff back in the day. But this Flowmaster, this tunnel ram style thing, did very, very well and allowed you to run. You could put good heads on it. You could put a good camshaft in. You could rev it up. You could put airflow research stuff on there, put trick flow stuff on there, whatever, and you could rev it up and make good power. So it makes me wonder if the high ram will do a similar thing. I honestly think that the high ram is probably better than that YN tunnel ram was, because I think Westex still has one of those. I think they have one of those YN tunnel rams for small block Ford, and it has the injector ports. They're not drilled out yet, but they're there. The provisions for them are cast in. So you could drill them and ream them for injectors, and you could make a version of that manifold. I just don't know if I tend to think that the higher ram would be better. It's way later, and doesn't rely on some fabricated top. It's got, they got fairly nice entries and stuff on them. So particularly, I don't think a high ram, like with any of these short runner deals, I don't think a high ram is the choice for a guy that has a 302 and a B303 or an E303 cam or whatever, and then GT40 heads. I don't think a high ram, that's not your jam. So you stick with some of these long runner things. You're gonna be much better off because you're gonna have a better average power production. Your heads are not going to make a lot of power. That camshaft's not going to make a lot of power. So you don't need a lot of intake manifold. You just need an intake manifold that's going to have a good average power production. It's going to be one of these long runner things. But if you put a camshaft in it and then have good heads on it, you got Airflow Research 185 heads, which will support way more power. Or if you have a 331 or a 347, you could also do this kind of thing with a 351 and arguably be better on the 351, particularly if it wasn't a 351, if it was a 393 or a 408 or something. Then you put that kind of manifold on there, then that would definitely be the jams there. If you had a 408 stroker with good heads on it, Airflow Research 205s or whatever, that kind of head where you had 300 plus CFM and you had a 408 and you put that kind of manifold on there, then I'd go with a big throttle body and all that would work out good. And you wouldn't care so much about losing. If you did lose a little bit of power down low, you still, with the right camshaft and heads that flow that much and that kind of intake manifold, you could make a ton of power on the top. So, as always, you'd want to pick the manifold for your application and for your intended RPM. But I still think that the high ram with the big throttle body is probably going to work well. And for the guys out there, don't put a small throttle body on it. It's not going to give you better low speed response. You can't magically trick the manifold with a small throttle body. All you're going to do is just restrict the small throttle body or restrict the intake with a small throttle body and make less power. That doesn't really work that way, because I'm surprised at how often I get that comment and I get that question. Also for you guys, does anybody out there have any factory truck injectors? 48, 53, 60, any of those injectors? Darren, too many live feeds. I haven't done one in a couple of days. Never enough live feeds. Gonna try to pump up the tires again on the 84 Z28. Did they go flat? BC? Hopefully we'll be buying in a couple weeks. Were you ever able to find out if the 5.3 can be just swapped into a 4.8 truck without tuning it? No, I didn't find out. I did not ask Jimmy. I'll try to ask them tomorrow. Write myself a note. Today, I checked my push rod, tried your method. I got one full turn, 12 to 12, and about half a turn. So does that mean I'm short on push rod length? No, it means you're long on push rod length. If you got a turn and a half, that means it's long. Does anyone know if the T-tops are the same on 82 to 89 Camaro? Shortly after selling my 85 to a friend a few years ago, his girlfriend hit 95 northbound without locking them. Uh-oh. Running a 7400 push rod. Will putting 87 octane in a high-performance engine make the engine blow up? My engine builder said the gas station filled their tank with the wrong gas and it caused the engine to blow up. Tank gas to be tested to verify. If the engine is tuned with high compression and timing and stuff to run on a specific octane, and it doesn't have detonation, it doesn't have knock sensors on it. So something to have essentially countermeasures to take timing away so that it doesn't detonate, and it detonates, it could blow up the motor. I don't know that that's your situation, but that's definitely a possibility. I went a ramjet. It's been decent, nice. He said it started knocking, then blew up. Yeah, it could definitely do that with bad gas in it or a bad tune. Pay $2,500 for a ramjet. Happy Saturday. Florida's in the house. Later iterations are 25 pounds. I have 2 sets of 5.3 injectors out of an LC9. Is an LC9 is a different size injector, right? Than the like normal 4.8s and 5.3s. Let's see what On All Cylinders has to say. It's my go-to. It's Brian and the boys. Casting number. Piston, wrist pin, connecting rod, crankshaft, reductor wheel, 58X. Injector, port size, camshaft. AFM, yes. VVT on the later ones. Okay. Lifter style. Come on, hit me up with an injector. Intake manifold, here we go. Injector fuel flow, 36s or 37s. Okay, so those would be different than the 25s, I think, are the ones that we're kind of looking for. Tires were all new and parked. I bet my brother and nephew has some injectors. Yeah, just let me know. Send me an email. I'll put my email down here. I'm going to go to the wrecking yard and just grab a bunch of them. We want to try some stuff. How deep should a post hole be for concrete? Captain Concrete. If anybody knows, Captain Concrete should know, right? For stability. That's right. If a post is 6 feet tall, dig a 2-foot hole. Magic number is 1/3 of the post length. post level. I do have a post level. Get a ready mix bag. Add concrete. Secure and repeat. Wish I had my grandmother's Cadillac. Nice. I feel white interiors and cars are there to get scuffed. Yeah, I can't wear white. I certainly can't wear anything white and walk into West Deck, or like today when I'm out climbing trees and stuff with a chainsaw. So it was pretty exciting. And I'll have you know, Harbor Freight chainsaw too. It's my Harbor Freight chainsaw that I had for years and years and years, and it's cut a lot of stuff down and keeps going. It's even got pinched a couple of times, you know, because of user error, but it keeps going. Takes a licking and keeps on ticking. I've never tried, but I'm sure you could cut a tree down with it. And it's electric. It's not even a gas one. So just properly placed, it works good. So cut some branches down, cut the big stuff, you know, use loppers and cut off the outshoots off. So you just have a big branch and then chop that thing up. Dude, it's nothing but no thing. When Flex Fuel Vortex came out, 43 minutes of wide open throttle. Where did you do that? That seems like a lot. This idea to get a motor sitting outside for 20 years, oil change, mystery oil. I would take the plugs out of it and just make sure it turns over, like turn over by hand. Like I wouldn't do it with a starter or something unless you've already tried that, because then a lot of times that can snap rings if it's got rust and stuff on it. You turn it over by hand, it doesn't turn. You're like, oh, okay, there's something wonky going on. And a lot of times you can spray stuff in there, transmission fluid, WD-40, whatever, and you can sometimes work it back and forth and get the mojo going again. We've done that with Apex seals on rotaries and got them working. And then you just let it run and let it burn all that stuff out. It gets to be fine after a while. So if you get it rotating, that's good. And then, you know, check and make sure it has fuel pressure. The oil, if it's not been rained on, I wouldn't worry about it. But, you know, if it passes these other tests, like it will rotate, it's getting fuel, and it'll, you know, it has spark and all that stuff, then yeah, just put if you want to change the oil and see if it just that way when you drain it, you can also see if there's any water in it, which is obviously not what you want. But if you change the oil, I wouldn't put something really good in it. I just put whatever's. I always put what, like with these junkyard motors, I always put what's on sale, because you don't know. Like the first oil flush is just a cleaning, just like a cleansing kind of thing, just like it's giving it a bath inside. The L33 still needs more. Used to be required to wear white pants in NASCAR. Then they made team uniforms legal. Okay. If you cut a leg off, people can hear you scream. Yeah, I was even smart about it. I mean, I tied the chainsaw and pulled it up, and it was not plugged in, but I had the cord attached so that it came up and, you know, up in the area where I'm at in the tree, and I had like a lot of good branches and stuff to stand on and lean against the thing. It's all that, so it worked out good. I didn't have a harness on, or I didn't have it attached to anything. That would be a good idea, but I was, you know, I don't know. At the most, the highest we got was maybe 20 feet. Most of the time it was less than that. I have a strange one, 2006 Honda CR-V 2.4. The owner went on a long trip, nonstop. Next morning, starts in, drives 2 miles. Started missing, low compression, number 3, 40 pounds, 170 on 1 and 2. Did they, if it's on 2 cylinders, sometimes blown head gasket can do that. Yeah, the Dan's or whether it's blown between the cylinders. You replaced the head gasket, still same problem. It did leak test 30 and 20. Oh, so where is it blowing out of? Was it running a long time lean and burned a valve or burned more than one valve? Burned multi-valves? Did it jump timing? I've never seen I don't ever remember seeing in all the time that I've been doing this. I don't ever remember seeing a timing belt jump one tooth and then keep running. I've seen them jump and then like on an interference motor, like wiped all the valves out, bend the valves, particularly on Hondas. I've seen them jump and then take everything out. I've never seen a chain do that either. I've never seen a chain get loose enough to where it jumps a tooth and then just keeps going. And I've seen chains that are really loose. On my stepdad's K5 Blazer, his timing chain got so sloppy it wore a hole in the timing cover. So from the slop in the chain, it kept running against the thing, and eventually he's like, "I guess there's an oil leak. I better check that out." I was leaking out of the timing cover because I gotta fix that. He took it off. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty wobbly." It's a 4-valve engine. It's got plenty to choose from to burn. The head was rebuilt. New gaskets, number 1, number 2, 8% leak, blowing air out of the oil filter neck. So by the rings, did they break ring lands on them? %8 leaking is not very much. Like if you do a leak down test and it's at 92, that's good. Overheated, yeah, it could have warped stuff. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. What's up? What's up? What's up? I'm excited about my tree fort, although it's been a long day. It's been a lot of stuff. Jimmy right now today was, he is taking the turbo stuff off and is installing the road tricks. So we should have some results on that pretty soon. Broken rings, but on 2 cylinders next to each other at the same time, really strange. Yeah, it sounds still that kind of thing usually is more head gaskety. It's transferring between the two. I mean, I guess it could be, if it got hot, it could be warped enough where a new head gasket still isn't gonna, but it still isn't gonna seal it. But if you took it apart, you would be able to see that if it because I've troughed them before where you've burned something through between them, and that's not good. But it's really visible, though. I mean, it's a noticeable. When I was running the Silver State and I ran the 302, we torched the, what do we have? Oh, trick flow high port heads. We torched the trick flow high port heads because it got so lean. That's when I was running the R trim, and it went fast. It went 193 or 4 miles an hour on the radar. Bang the radar again, because it was making like 10 pounds or whatever. But I didn't have anywhere near enough fuel and anywhere near enough tuning. I just went out and hoped for the best. And I think back then I may have even had the 24-pound injectors and the meter and then an FMU. I think that's what I had. If not, then I had 36-pound injectors and a 36-pound meter, which probably was still not enough for the R trim in that combination. At any rate, it didn't have enough fuel, and it melted itself and shot a superheated piece of the piston out the cylinder head, but not in between cylinders. It did trough that a little bit too, but shot it out between the head and the block out of the car. It's not good. So it's basically aluminizing the header and stuff. It was pretty cool. So he thought, but the head was machined and the gasket looked good. Pistons looked good. Deck was checked. It was perfect. Checked it with the straight edge. I did the Harry Surveyor eyeball. I may buy this 5-liter Mustang locally. It's a convertible, auto, double negative. However, it's $1,000, triple black. Well, the triple black is good and the $1,000 is good. I'm not a fan of convertibles. and an automatic convertible is going to, and especially if it's a, well, if it's convertible, it's probably got gears in it. It's probably got 327s in it. Yeah, I'd like to see what a, convertible automatic with 273 gears. Like, I'd like to see how slow that would be. That would be very, very slow. I don't think they ever made that combination, but I just would be curious to see. You know, all the cool kids got the 308s, although you could get 327s of the automatics. I'm not a fan of convertibles. The only convertible I like is a Miata. I mean, there might be others. I mean, I like them. I like the way they look. I just don't like the way that they work. Like a convertible top, especially almost all of them, especially in higher end cars, are all electric. There shouldn't be only electric. There should be a lever to turn off the electrics, and then you should be able to do it manually like the Miata does, and then just latch it together. So in an emergency situation, you don't have to take out tools and go through a procedure and do all that stuff. You should be able to just grab the top and pull it up while you're driving. I mean, you could pull over and then latch it to the windshield and then roll the windows up. And that should be good. That's why I like the Miata so much. And because we speed tested it, it was fantastic. Hope to hear a yes on your sessions on the question. I'm Bush and feel like trying to change the window motor, trying to find a regulator is shot. And what was the question? Was a question on the 4.8 and 5.3? Yeah, I'll find out. I think it's going to be okay, but I'll try to verify from people that have done factory stuff. Some of the Monzas had high gears. Yeah, that's what makes them such good Bonneville cars. I'm new to LS and putting an L33 with a stage 3 Summit cam, twin 6262s, and an Exo truck. Okay. Why did you go with that big of a cam if you're going turbo? Tahoe window regulators are easy. 15 minutes. Have you done a few? I probably need to put regulators in my Silverado. Is that the same thing, Dan? Mine are pretty slow. Every time they go up, I'm like, this might be the last one. This might be the last time. Oh, Exo truck. My suggestion is, and if you already have a cam, just use what you have. But you don't need a big cam to make lots of power with turbo stuff. And if you have twin 62s, you can make a pretty good bit of power. I just like smaller cams when we do that so that you have better response for the turbos. And a smaller cam is not going to hurt you at all because the turbos dictate how much power you're going to make. 485.3 stock swap, no tune. I think it'll run fine. It's got the same size injector. It's got a mass air meter. Silverados are the same. If they're running slow, try some WD-40 on the felt first. Oh, yeah, I don't think it's dragging on the felt. Isn't that going to get all over the window too, though? Are you talking about the stuff at the top where the window goes through? The fronts are depending on year. Or slide glide. The vehicles are kind of funny. One lope without the turbo back pressure hurting EGTs. Yeah, the turbo back pressure is not a function of the camshaft. It's actually a function of the turbo sizing. So if you size your turbos for the power level that you want, then you're all good. Sprayed in the window, run channels, not on the glass itself. Okay, so I got to take the door panel off to do that. Time was checked on the marks with 1.2 compression, 170, only 8% leakage. They seem good. Do a crack block between the cylinders, not in a water jacket. I don't know how the crack. I mean, if you could lose compression with a crack between cylinders and it's not going through a water jacket, it'd be visible to the naked eye. I mean, you'd be able to see it. 2004 Tahoe, which I believe would be a 25-pound EFI. Honda B20s are not big blocks. You're wrong. Wrong about what? They're big blocks compared to a B16. What is meant by positive displacement supercharger versus one that is not? That means every time the supercharger rotates, it moves the same amount of air from one side to the other side based on the displacement of the supercharger. Lots of them don't do that. Like a centrifugal supercharger doesn't do that. A centrifugal supercharger is basically a turbo impeller that's spun mechanically by the crankshaft. So when it spins once, it doesn't provide a fixed amount of airflow. As it spins faster, it gets more and more efficient. And the other supercharger, positive displacement, like a Roots blower or a twin screw blower, doesn't do that. Race versus standard AccuFabs. I heard standard makes more power. That would surprise me that that's something that John from AccuFab would have missed. I don't know how that would be the case. But we could try it. I'm pretty sure that the race flows more, but I can ask John. I need to take the door panel off. Just go up and down with the window while spraying W4 your slide glide. Okay. B16, B18, B20 are the same block, but they're not the same displacement though. The B16 is a 1.6 liter and a B20 is not. So it has both a bigger stroke and a bigger bore. I don't care about the block size. And we just called them a big block just out of jest because they're Honda motors and they're not big block Chevys anyways. So it was a relative thing. So, you know, maybe easing up a little bit is probably the way to go here. These are not the same block. Exactly. Yeah. I'm familiar with Hondas a little bit. The trucks up to this one have all been Subaru powered. Excited to try the bigger motor. It'll have a lot more torque with these motors. Doesn't have an AOD. It's a C6, so at least that's better. Yeah. Can't wait to get it apart and find out what it did. If it broke the rings, that'd be something I've never seen on two cylinders next to each other. Yeah, that seems weird. I don't know why you'd get crossover detonation. Yeah, I mean, everybody here said the same thing that you thought, Drag Van, that it sounds like head gasket from the way that you're describing it. Don't like convertibles unless it's an Mitsubishi teeny one. Yeah. An L6, an LS1, would a Sniper 92 with adapter be a good idea? You don't need that. You should just put the 78 millimeter on there. Convertibles have the heebie-jeebies. Cal shake is a real thing. Yeah. Yeah, they have the convertibles had the chassis stiffening stuff too. And it still doesn't stiffen it enough from the top side. It's doing it all on the bottom side. Convertibles are better though if you do subframe connectors. They had the X-Brace or whatever. Do all 6-liter LS blocks need to be clearance for a 408 stroker? I don't think that that's a block thing. I think that that's a stroker assembly thing, but it's definitely something that I would mock up to find out. If you only ran for 10 or 15 to 20 minutes, you think we should replace the head gasket? No, if it's an MLS head gasket, I wouldn't replace it. Because there's no way that you hurt the head gasket from idling it or whatever you guys are doing if you're testing to see if it had, you know, if you're just doing compression tests and stuff, there's no way that you would hurt that head gasket. And I myself have reused lots of MLS head gaskets. We've used them 8 or 10 times when we're doing like cylinder head comparisons, just so we have the same, you know, they have the same compressed thickness of the head gasket. And in this case, the same head gasket. MLS with copper coat. Yeah, I don't know why you got to do that, but yeah, that's fine. Porsches had all kinds of stiffeners in their cabs, and even they had Cal shake, and the stiffeners added at least 75 pounds to the car. MLS head gaskets are reusable as long as they aren't damaged. The fin on the hatchback Monza is a must. They look done without the hatchback. The trunks are ugly, but a little car with a V8, so that's good. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Monzas are popular out at Bonneville. Maybe because in a lot of these classes you have to run a factory motor, and not a factory one. It's not a stock one, but a factory version. So if it came with a V8, you could run a V8. If it came with an inline 6-cylinder and was not a V8 option, then a V8 swap would be a swap car. And so it's not a even though it's a Chevy or whatever, it's in a different class. So some people want to be in a specific class and want to run, like I want to run in the Sprint. I want to run production supercharged. So I couldn't run a Geo Metro. I could run a Sprint turbo because it came, or a Firefly or Cultus or any of these that had that 1-liter Sprint, the 3-cylinder motor, but it had to have that from the factory. And a Metro never offered that. So there you go. Yeah, everybody likes different versions of these cars. I remember when I bought my Mustang, I thought I bought a 65, like a high poke 289 4-speed pony interior, all that stuff, red, black top and stuff. I'm like, no, I have a 5-liter LX, so it has a trunk. Real Mustangs have trunks. They're not fastbacks. And then even though I don't want to get a hatchback Mustang GT because I don't like those as well. I like notches. But in a 65, I would rather have a fastback. It's a better looking car. So I've changed. I've grown up. One of those Monzas had a 352 barrel, really low horsepower rating. Yeah, it was not stellar, but as long as it had a V8, as long as you had something to start with, you didn't have to run the 2-barrel. You didn't have to run whatever that was, a 350 or a 307 or a 265 or whatever weird, combination that it could have been. You didn't have to do any of that. But as long as, you could put a NASCAR engine in. Although you couldn't do that, I think, because I think it had to have, I think the factory stuff classes have to have maybe a production block. I need to look at that and see. 262, yeah. Yeah, so it didn't matter. Like you could run a 350 or whatever. Used to run 12s with one tire fryer. The cool thing about having a non-posi is if you have something that you've put a little bit of power to, you just roast that tire. You could do the one-wheel peel like for days. I remember when we first put my younger brother, and then my roommate had that car, and then we fixed it up, put fuelie heads on it, whatever, some sort of little camshaft and 4-barrel and stuff on it. But it had an open diff in it, and I think we put a 373 gear in it. But when it had the open diff in it, we put a 100 shot of nitrous on it and just lay into it just right off the line. And that thing would just annihilate that tire. Like it looked like, we were doing top fuel burnouts, but on one single bias ply or whatever the tire was. Why you want to give me the run around? Ooh, the Monza. Some of those are good looking too. Going back, looking at the origin story. 2 + 2. Ooh, the wagon. Could be ordered with 145 horsepower. 305. Yeah. 262, optional engine in 49 states. 140 horsepower. Very nice. But only in California. Let's see, the 76 model. Got a 305 with a 2-barrel, 140 horsepower, but only for California and the high altitude Monza customers, and replace the 350 V8. Nice. Yeah, let's find out the 350. Ooh, substituting a version of the 350 V8 engine with a 2-barrel carburetor for 125 horsepower. Smallest V8 ever offered. Featured a Rochester 2-barrel, 110 horsepower for the 262. Nice. But the 350 got you an extra 15 horsepower. But I'm sure it had to be a lot of torque. I mean, a lot, relatively speaking. Man, they did. None of them had any like serious firepower. The Monza Spider. Appearance package. Nice. See, now I've gone down the Monza rabbit hole. First week of school is done. Tore apart a Ford 3-liter V6. Super fun. Nice. Looking forward to supercharged Tahoe. Me too. I want to see what the boost curve is like. And I'm curious to see. They didn't even tell me from the guys from Rotrex. Didn't even tell me like what. I mean, they sent certain pulley assembly. We had to buy an ATI damper. And then they sent the blower with the pulley on it. I don't know what boost level that will produce on. This is just a stock 5.3. So I don't know what boost it will supply in the RPM range that we're running it at. Learn how to measure cam lift and duration, valve springs, and valve removal. Looking forward to future knowledge. Good. That's all good stuff, man. 140 horsepower from a 5-liter V8 is, yeah, but it makes a lot of torque. All of my cars, yep. I noticed earlier when I installed that cam, it recessed in from the plate about 3/16 of an inch into the block. Is that normal? I don't know what you mean. You should be able to push the cam forward, and that nose should stick out of that cam retaining plate. Because when you put the timing gear on, the timing gear is going to go over that part that sticks out. 5 or 6 pounds. I think it's going to be more than that, given the flow rate of this blower, because it's supposed to support 1,200 horsepower. Now I don't know how fast they're spinning it, but we'll see. Richard, I'm new to tuning, and I'm on spark timing. And as the RPMs on HP tuners go up, the timing is going down, as it should. But from 32 to 34, the timing goes from 26 to 17. As you go up in RPM, the timing should not go down. It should go up. You should have more timing at 6,000 RPM than you do at 3,000 RPM. It should go down with load. So like at idle, it might have whatever timing it has. Under cruise, it might have a lot of timing. And then, but at wide open throttle, from cruise, the timing is going to go like if you look at 3,000 RPM, and they don't have it this way in the factory tune. There's all such stuff going on. But as you go up in load, you go down in timing. As you go up in RPM, you go up in timing. I just sent a link to my friend who owns a Honda so he can hear that he can reuse the head gasket. I told him we could not. Did not believe me. I told him we could. Okay, yeah, no, it's good. I think some came with Iron Dukes. Yep. 3600 goes back to 26. That seems like a weird anomaly to me. I don't know why they would take 10 degrees out of it unless that's a detonation area, but looking forward to do some Richard Holder type testing. That's good. Do you guys get to run stuff on the dyno? Did not find anything in the oil pan, but it has the oil pump and balance shafts between the pistons and the oil pan. It shouldn't go from 26 to 16 to 17 in the back. No, not in a 200 RPM range. That's not. Camaro Berlinetta also came with an Iron Duke. 77 old Starfire. We put an L40 in it to replace the 231. Felt like we added 300 horsepower at a Muncie Trans. It just had a lot of thrust play until I put timing gear on. Yeah, it will. The cam can move around a lot when you just put because there's nothing behind it stopping it from moving. There is there is the cover plate back there, but there's room. It doesn't push on the camshaft. So in the cam retaining plate just stops it from moving. And when the gear is on there, basically when the gear is attached to the cam and the cam retaining plate's in the middle of that, it's just kind of locked in place. Richard, you sound like me. I have a couple of Roadmasters and Fleetwoods, but think the Caprice is hideous. Looking upside down turtle. 77 Starfire had an odd fire V6, always vibrated. Was that the 4.1? Chevy Monza. Odd fire V6s were a terrible idea. Near. 231s were odd fire. Maybe 229s, can't remember. Don't want to remember. This school contains diesel courses and hybrid courses and EV, so I'll be learning everything. That's good. That's good to have all of that stuff. You should learn all of that. That's all good information because that stuff is here to stay. Yeah, being a mechanic is that's a valuable tool. It's a valuable skill. There will always be cars. Certainly in your lifetime, there will always be cars. And so being able to fix them is important. People will need to fix them because lots of people will not know how to. Each chassis is awesome, though the Vega split bumper reigns supreme. I have to say, I do like that Vega like that because I had my first car was a split bumper Camaro, so I have a soft spot for that. And the Vegas that are done like that look cool. You recommend a kit for the LS if the only accessory I'll have is an alternator? I don't know. Maybe look at the HOLLEY stuff. I haven't done kits like that. We haven't tested them, so I haven't done them in vehicles. I'm going to be looking at that stuff because we're putting one in a Fox body. Stopped up at Tommy's for chili burger. Listen to your live stream. What Tommy's did you go to? I think the only one I've been to is the one in LA. Where I remember driving up there from college and going up there. Unfortunately, we found a guy laying in the road, and he was no longer with us. He was on a motorcycle and he got hit in a traffic accident. We stopped and called the police and stuff, and they all came. It's not a good deal. My friend put a 454 in a Vega when we were in high school. After a few Wednesday night drag races at Badlands, the driver's door wouldn't open anymore. Yeah, they are get a little twisty Bobcat pretzel. How is the new flat plane crank in these Corvettes? I don't know. I don't think it really does much except for changing the tone of the engine. 41 degrees is at 4,800 for stage 2 cam, because at 4,200 my HP is at 405, but then the 4,800 it drops significantly. 41 degrees might be normal at 4,800 under cruise, but not at wide open throttle. There's never 41 degrees at wide open throttle on any LS at any RPM. I learned it as a one-wheel peel. Yep. It's in Ontario off of Mountain and the 60 freeway. Okay. Smoked last night by a Fox body LQ9 and a BorgWarner S488. Well, that should be that should be plenty fast. That's a lot of turbo, and a 6-liter LQ9 with that turbo can make a lot of power. So that's, you shouldn't feel bad about that. And in a Fox chassis, it's pretty light. So I mean, that's a lot of car. Wow. That's a situation where he would probably have trouble putting power down, because that's pretty sporty. We don't even have a pole. Okay. Is the Holley high rim the best intake ever made for a 5-liter Ford? Where's all my GT40, guys? Be quick about it, because we got 4 minutes. Thinking I might have been to the Ontario one, maybe with the West Tech guys one time. Track was hot. I usually do well there, being all-wheel drive, but the Fox body was getting it. Yeah, that. Oh, you guys were at a track too. I thought that you guys were doing like a little something on the road there. Dan, you mentioned the 454 in the Vega. I remember seeing one way back in Hot Rod. I don't remember if it was a 454 or a 427, but I remember it was in the back of the Vega. It was like a Vega hatchback, and it was in the back. So I don't know what trans he had hooked up to it and how the rear end was all. I don't know. It seems like there wouldn't be enough room to make that happen, but it was in the hatch. At an airstrip. Okay. Was it a quarter mile, or was it a roll? What was it? Was it a rolling thunder? I don't like help low speed torque production, so on small engines. I said yes. Okay. 8th. Okay. Yeah, for an 8th, you really got to hook up. You got to work on the. It's less about like really gigantic power than getting the thing to hook up. Gigantic power. So I went for another ride today on the bike. Actually, this one was a long one. This was probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 miles or something. Felt good. Then we took the Brady and Bruno, took the dogs for a hike up in the hills. And then I attacked the backyard and the tree fort area. Lots of stuff. Got to do manly stuff. Go to Home Depot, get a bunch of lumber, get wood. Good stuff. Got 1 more minute. How's our poll doing? 62% saying yes. I got a little bit more. A little bit favoring the yes side. Best intake ever made. We got 13 votes. Everybody could get up there and vote. Maybe I have my table set up wrong on the scanner because it's only showing 1 row and it's 800, but it shows up from 800 to 8,000. Yeah, I don't know. I don't do a lot of tuning on stock stuff, so I'm the wrong guy to ask about that. But I can tell you from the thousands of dyno tests that I've run, that the timing has to go up with RPM, because as you go up in RPM, you still want the ignition and the expansion and the push on the piston to happen at the same time. And since you're running a faster engine speed, you have to fire it earlier so it will still happen, because the piston's going up and down faster. So it still has to happen at the same point to optimize power production. So that's why more ignition timing with RPM. BTR Trinity, BTR Equalizer, or Holley Short Ram. Well, the Trinity makes the most power of all of those. But again, I wouldn't pick any of those for, I don't, if you're racing, then that's something else. Like, what kind of RPM are you running? HB tuners, built head, stage 2 cam, and headers. Your opinion on the simplest tuning system? The simplest one is the one that you know. So I believe that if you learn to operate one EFI aftermarket, or if you learn factory stuff, then you can learn anything. All the aftermarket ones, in my opinion, are a lot easier than the factory ones are. So if you can learn Holley, when I learned Holley, or actually learned fast first. So when I learned fast, learning Holley was just, you need to push this button instead of this button to get it. But if you understand what the motor wants, and you understand how manipulating this gets you that, it's not that hard. It's not like magic stuff. This one's probably going to end up a drift build. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what kind of RPM you're running. So the intake manifold is RPM specific. If you want to run very high RPM, then all those short runner manifolds are very high RPM. And if you want to run high RPM, you got to have all the other high RPM stuff. Got to have a really, really stable camshaft. I don't know if that camshaft that you have is very stable. You got to have the valve train for it, all of that. I think Weber intakes for the 5 liters look really cool. And now you could get some Gen V EFI throttle bodies that look like Webers. Yeah, the guys I used to work for, the Dynatech guys, had those that look like Webers, and they were nice. They had injectors stuffed inside of them. Definitely getting it slowly. I was hoping you could give me a tip on the right direction. Yeah, as you go up in RPM, more timing. Up in load, less timing. Up in boost, less timing. Those are all trends. So our poll is getting close to 50-50. 56% saying yes, 44% saying no. We will close that out and hurry up, get your questions in, because it's time to go. A 12, and just so people know that I went and got cement today, and I grabbed an 80-pound bag of cement. And I don't know why I was thinking that it's cement. It's like powder. It's going to be really, really light. I'm like, no, it says 80 pounds on it. It's going to be 80 pounds. And then also the other thing I thought were really heavy, and I'm going to say that it's because they were wet. They had lots of moisture in them. But the 12-foot 4x4s seemed a lot heavier than I remember. I got Summit Spring sold with an 8716. The shorter intake is so it'll clear the hood for me. I got titled in PA for road use. Okay. Yeah, no, if you have to have that short runner intake manifold, I probably would get a Trinity. A Trinectity. Infamous woolly mammoth. Things get heavier as you get older. I know, it's terrible. Got the spring, Summit sold. Okay, there we go. And on that note, it is time to go. Thank you guys all for showing up. I got more. I'm working on a video right now for the exhaust test that Jimmy did on we got the Turbo Tahoe, and then we ran a bunch of different size exhausts on it and different headers, and even did a muffler change at the stock muffler for a aftermarket muffler. And yes, there was power there in the stock muffler, replacing the stock muffler. We'll get into all that in the video though, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow.